June is National Pollinators Month. If you've ever wondered what the heck is a pollinator, we'll explain all about it. So what is a pollinator? What are they good for? We're going to explain. The National Park Service says that a pollinator is anything that helps carry pollen from the male part of the plant, the stamen, to the female part of the plant, or another flower, the stigma. Birds and the bees. Now, the movement of that pollen occurs, and it's usually done by an insect, but it also can be done by mammals such as like bats, for instance, that they will go and take nectar in the evenings out of certain plants, and that they will pollinate those plants. Those of you who have ever grown, say, or had in your landscape a winterberry holly, where you want the flowers you want the berries in the fall, the bright red berries when the leaves drop, and it's that Christmas scene where you have snow and the berries are in the background. Those are only done if they cross-pollinate. So if you've never gotten berries, there's one or two things happening. One, you bought a male holly, or two, that you have a female holly that isn't being pollinated by the male because it's too far away. Now, different types of bees and wasps, moths, butterfly, birds, even flies, small mammals, humans. So for instance, if you are walking through an area where you're brushing up that pollen and you start sneezing, and that where you end up walking past other plants, you're actually pollinating those plants as you're walking through. All right, so what's the big deal? Why are pollinators important? And I talk about this we've talked about this on the station, on the radio, and the podcast, all about how, like, all right, so if you have weeds in your grass or in your garden and they flower, guess what? They're going to pollinate. And that it's a biblical thing, where it's that one seed will also produce hundreds or even thousands of other seeds, because it's pollinated, and then it's like it's fruit. It's like, say you grow tomatoes and you want to grow tomatoes. It doesn't matter what type of plant, they all have to be pollinated in order to have the crop. Okay. It could be a crop of weeds. It could be a crop of tomatoes or peaches, almonds. It's pretty amazing that in California, almonds not only use a lot of water, but they also use honeybees that they bring in by the tractor trailer load in order to pollinate their crop so that they have a bigger production. That's done in all types of fields throughout the entire country. I mean, it's an industry. So basically the bees are like working, and they bring their hives and they leave their hives on the farm so that they go and they'll pollinate all of the fruits or vegetables so that the production is higher. So it's an interesting thing that you don't even think about. And one thing, I guess it was a year or so ago, that there was this major accident on a major artery in California, and it closed down the road. And it was because one of these trucks, that it was a tractor trailer carrying hives, turned over. And it was like a mess. And so all those people that were afraid of bees were like terrorized. And those people that understood that they were pollinators and that the beekeepers were called in to get them back into the hives. What a mess. What a mess. But it's something that's done. So again, that's a pollinator. Here's an interesting fact, that 1 out of every 3 bites of food you eat exists because of the efforts of pollinators. Fruits, vegetables, and seeds. They anything that's grown is pollinated. Now, there are some things that are self-pollinated, but most are pollinated from insects. 75% of all the flowering plants on Earth are pollinated by insects and animals. 180,000 different types of plants. those plants also, they stabilize our soil. So if you think about it, that the seed is laid and that where it holds the soil in place, it's not necessarily something you eat, but it's, say, a ground cover or something that is not letting the soil wash away or run off. Pollinators and honeybees specifically. So pollination by honeybees contributes to over $20 billion of crop production, and that's going back almost 10 years. And other insect pollinators contribute to another $10 billion. So it is an actual thing. You need pollinators. Pollinators are important. Pollinators in your garden are important. It's something where you should think about planting pollinator plants, and they could be shrubs, they could be perennials, they could be annual flowers, but they are specifically to draw the pollinators into your garden so that your garden's yield is that much more productive. Something to think about. Something to think about. In our next segment coming up, what we're going to talk about is about butterflies. Now, they are probably the original pollinators, where people would talk about butterflies and how to get butterflies into their garden. And they really are doing it specifically because they're so pretty, but it actually became something where they became part of the pollinator movement.